enders throwing their beds, Vorons making weird art, and resin failures that kind of are also pretty awesome. All this and more, PrintFix Friday, episode 39. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel with the longest weekly print fail fix series here on YouTube. If you're new here, make sure to get subscribed and leave a like if you think we earned it. And if you're not new here, still leave a like. Come on, let's go. We're gonna start today with a Cura failure. And Cura is not a software that I am really all that familiar with. I know it to some extent, but this particular problem, yeah, I'm gonna need your guys' help on this one. I'd love to know your opinions on this one. Seriously, it's an interesting one. Then we move on to an ender that is leaving little dots of filament across their first layer. And no, it's not wet filament. Then we move into a fan submission with a Voron that made some art, and not in the way that you might initially think. Or maybe you do. I don't know. I can't tell you how to think. Then we move into a fail from Tom Sadlatterer, a fellow YouTuber who's had a rough time with his Anycubic M3 Plus. That one's cool, and honestly, the fail itself looks gorgeous. Don't miss that one. And then we move into an ender that decided its bed didn't need to be where it needed to be. It decided to throw it off the side of the printer. And finally, we end with a failure of mine that occurred during our crazy rush to get over 90 hours of 3D printing done in less than 9 hours. That's a fun story. Stay to the end for that one. But you know what? You won't have to stay to the end for my segue to our sponsor, us, 3D Musketeers. As you can see behind me, all 4 Pruses are running. The Fusion 3 F410 is running. And there are another 4 printers running for one job. We got contacted 7 a.m. in the morning. It is currently 3:30 in the afternoon, and the client needs parts in hand by 8 p.m., 2 hours away. If that is not service, I don't know what is. And that's what we do here at 3D Musketeers. We help people solve painful problems with purposeful solutions like 3D printing. And if you have an event where customs has totally screwed you and your parts have not gotten here in time, make sure to reach out to the pros at 3D Musketeers. But while it is a lot of work and it's not going to be cheap, we are here to help you make awesome every single day. And if you're just a regular person that just hates failing, you can reach out to the pros at 3D Musketeers as well. Jobs small to large, we handle everything now with 3D scanning as well. So if you're local to the Tampa Bay area or don't mind paying to fly us out somewhere, you can get full color, high resolution 3D scans as small as 0.1 millimeter accuracy all the way out to 110 meters, although the accuracy is a little bit different out there. We're gonna be doing some 3D scanning here soon on the channel, so make sure you guys get subscribed if you aren't already. And if you do want to kick a couple of bucks into that creator fund to support the efforts that we do here on the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/3D Musketeers. But I've only got a little bit of time before all these printers stop and need a little bit of attention, so I'm going to get back to it, and you are going to get back into the fails. Slicer skips chunks of the edge. I've printed smaller, so it's not thin wall issue. It might not be. I think this might be a retraction thing. I'm 100% not certain on this. And we've got some things that are telling us different stories here, right? We've got these issues. Could be a graphical glitch for all I know. But looking at this part, I think it might be getting so thin here that it's not properly extruding. This is one of those swords that are collapsible. They're nice pieces, very difficult to print. So unless your retraction settings are like properly dialed in, it's not gonna work. It could be a bad file. I don't think that it is. This is generally seen to be as a pretty good file. We got someone recommending to rotate the model. I don't know, but I have to agree here. Chances are it's happening because your part is thinner than your line width. They have no idea why those sections are janky. Neither do I, but the original model does look clean in the area, which I agree. This individual has something here saying wall transitioning threshold angle. I don't know what that is. I'm guessing that's a Cura thing. We don't do a ton in Cura, to be honest with you. We did some printing with Cura 5.0, and the stock profile is just not really tuned well for a Prusa Mark III's, or at least the Prusa Mark III's profile is not well tuned for the printer. So while it did save us a bunch of time, I'm gonna hold off for a little bit, just until we can get something a little more stable for the Prusa. So let's take a look at this a little bit then. We see this actually a new setting with 5.0, And the setting controls transitions of printed lines in sharp angles in models. All sharp edges in 3D models that do not meet this threshold will be printed without line transitions. Increasing this setting will negatively impact visual quality while allowing sharp edges to be printed. Huh. So this does appear to be something around width of the actual lines themselves. I'm wondering that when you go smaller, that you're going less perimeters. As we can see, this interior perimeter, totally fine, no issues at all. But I'm also not seeing any gap fill, which tells me maybe we've got some setting problems. This one's a bit beyond my 100% knowledge because I'm not a massive Cura fan. Not because I think it's a bad slicer, but just because Prusa Slicer works so much better for my purposes. So if you do know Cura and you think you know the answer, let us know down in those comments. Why am I getting these weird bumps? I've messed with flow rate and I can't seem to get rid of them. Let's take a look at this photo. You are too close to your build plate. Let's see if I am right. Oh my God! Oh, it's not fucking wet filament. It's not fucking wet filament. It's not wet filament. Holy shit. Thank you. Upvote for you because it is not wet filament. God bless it. This is a good one. Calibrate your Z offset. It's basically the same thing, right? Dealing with your offset between your nozzle and your build plate. And same deal. Everyone's saying, you know, watch about your nozzle, except this person, and they're wrong. This is absolutely, you're too close. So, because it's a Creality printer and you are using a BL Touch, you will be able to set that first layer offset. It looks like it's pretty consistent, which is good, right? If it's consistently too close, it means the BL Touch is doing its job. And all you have to do is baby step it up a little bit to get it away from that heat bed. Now, with that all being said, this is that stock carbonium crap that Creality loves. That is silicon carbide. It will destroy nozzles if you drag your nozzle against it, so be careful about that. But this material is also a bit of a pain to print with because of its textured surface. It's got a little bit of deviation. Now, I don't think that's causing this problem, but it is something to keep in mind. But you see how well everything is sticking? We see a little bit of stringing, which is probably caused by a little bit too much heat on your first layer. But yeah, this is consistently over extruding, but it's because it's too close. And you can see that here by the squish line of the perimeter itself. If this was the right amount away from the build plate, we would see this be perfectly round or damn near close to it. Also looks like you might have a X-axis belt that's a little bit loose, so do check on that because it looks like this is more of an oval and not a circle, although this could also be the photo. We got a fan submission from Tomorrow X2345. And remember, if you want to get your fail shown on the PrintFixFriday series, make sure to tag us on all the social medias. We'll have their respective usernames on screen and use the hashtag PrintFix. This just happened. The right motor decided it didn't want to work properly anymore and created art. This is the fun thing with CoreXY machines. This is a Voron. I haven't built a Voron yet. I think it's a 2.4. Fairly certain it's 2.4, but I haven't built a Voron. We're gonna be building the Fenrir from my buddy Maker Viking coming up as soon as that thing is released. So that's gonna be my Voron. Just, you know, with a better community. The thing with CoreXY is that if one motor goes out, the printer will only move in a 45-degree angle. But the nice thing to have with CoreXY is that the forces are even no matter what direction you're moving. But hilariously, to move forward or backward or left and right, both of your motors must turn rather than just one. So it is a little bit odd and it does cause crazy spaghetti like this. And yeah, apparently it was a faulty wire, which is interesting. Not something that you typically see in CoreXY machines because the motors don't move. But on a Voron 2.4, they do move up and down with the gantry system. So this could cause work hardening. So if you are building a Voron, make sure, especially the 2.4, make sure that you have good cable management, that your wires are not straining too much, that they're not being kinked in any way, because ultimately that's going to lead to wire failure, and you end up with, honestly, it looks pretty cool, but it is complete and utter garbage. Thankfully, it is a pretty easy fix, all things considered, so we do like seeing those when it's possible, right? Brand new wire, maybe a little bodge fix, and you're off to the races. But recognize if you just solder it back together, chances are the other wires are on their way out too. Most stepper motors use 4 wires, some will use 6, some use more. vast majority of NEMA 17s use 4 wires, so just be careful with it. Always make sure to use a good quality wire as well. Copper is my preference. It will last longer than an aluminum wire or copper clad aluminum, but even so, copper is known to work hard and such that over time, as it's bending, it will start to get harder and resist that bending more and just break. Of course, we don't want that. So something to do here, again, make sure your cables are well constrained and kind of out of the way during movement. Having cable chain like you see here on the rest of the machine is great to have for your motor wires. I would highly recommend it if you don't already. And if that is still causing you problems even with the cable chain, look at maybe some of that TechFlex material, the braided cable covering. That will help make sure that the cables don't get kinked. And if all of that fails, the old school way, and even the Prusa Mark III S uses it, 3mm nylon filament is a great way to do this. That nylon will resist kinking and bending, but you have to constrain it to your wires themselves. That can be a bit of a pain in the ass. My preference, cable chain, and if that still doesn't work, look at adding some sort of braided cable sleeve to reduce that bending motion. Next up, we got a fail from Tom Sadlatterer. As some of you might know, he goes by Tom's 3DP and is a YouTuber here. And if you don't know Tom's channel, go check it out. It's pretty great. Tom's a good guy. I think he does very fair reviews, which is sometimes not the easiest to find in this industry, so I appreciate that about him. And he does have a live stream channel where he does a lot of his lives. We've been hanging out there as he's been learning about high-end 3D scanning. It's been fun. He says there might be a little bit of a problem. Oof. Okay, so this is a really, really interesting failure. If you were to come back and see this on your printer, you might say, what the actual hell just happened? All of this weirdness is actually from raw resin on the screen. And what is happening is as he is pulling the layers off, so it's ripping away from that FEP sheet, it is causing the raw resin still on the screen to move around a little bit and either block the light or let it through. Honestly, it's a pretty cool looking failure. I'll give him a 10 out of 10 for fails. But what happened here? That's really the thing to look at. Normally speaking, I would say that this is a tear in the FEP, right? Because that is a common thing that happens when you're dealing with models and resin printing. Tearing FEP can be a problem. You end up getting resin stuck to your screen, and that's a problem. But we have a potential clue. We've got a screw here. That screw appears like it is from the bottom of the FEP sheet that is holding the FEP sheet to the frame. If I was a betting man, I might think that's a bit of a clue and that maybe the screws had backed themselves out and it was leaking through a passageway there. However, given the build plate, that is the Anycubic M3 Plus printer, and so it does have an automatic refiller. So maybe we had a problem with that and it leaked as well, but I'm not seeing any indication of that. We see a little bit of resin around the edge of the tank itself, so I'm gonna probably go with busted FEP. This sucks because, yeah, if you don't know what you're looking for, this is crazy confusing, but a really cool failure. And I've never seen something print this well, but also this bad, if you feel me. And don't be like John of Proper Printing and screw up the polarization layer. That's no fun. I see I'm not the only one wondering if it's the vat or the refiller. Definitely paper towels are not going to help. But yeah, that one's an interesting one. I will be curious to see if it is from the refiller unit or if it is from a hole in the vat. But what we can see is that there's a lot more resin here than there is here. So hilariously, I think this photo was taken first when he first saw the failure. And then after finding the problem, he went back and took the photo. So maybe there's a hole somewhere in this area. I don't know. This sucks. Been there, done that, gotten the t-shirt. Thankfully, this printer, as Chris Catlett says, has a screen protector, so the screen should be safe. And if your printer doesn't have a screen protector, make sure to get some Mylar sheets. You can buy them off Amazon. We'll have affiliate links down in the description. And you can use some Kapton tape or very, very thin tape to tape it to your machine to basically give you a screen protector. It generally works quite well. We got that from our buddy, Mr. Charo Zuck, from Fotis Mint's Discord. He highly recommends the Mylar sheets, and I am currently using it and absolutely love it as well. So highly recommended. Thanks for the suggestion, Charo. WTF happened? Well, we've got a build plate where it doesn't belong. We've got dark photos that are difficult to see. That's the whole thing. Like, that's the heat bed and all. What? Jeez. I'm gonna have to agree here. It looks like the bed screws came loose. We have better photos? We do! Yes, the bed screws came loose. Look at that. Wow, no kidding. That's insane. Yeah, so that's something to be aware of as well, but there's no spring. What is going on? This one's a weird one. Okay, so likely what happened here is either the printer was moved or it was shaking a lot, and there might not have been a lot of tension on the springs. I've seen this happen before where if you don't have a ton of tension on the springs, the actual wheel to do the bed leveling, these are the leveling screws. And it's technically tramming, if we're gonna be really specific, but people know it as leveling and not tramming, so we're gonna use leveling. I'm sorry. But those wheels can back off, and if you've got enough spring pressure, or it gets grabbed in just the wrong way, it could be lifted out. But like, what? It appears to me, kind of looking at this failure, maybe they started the print and then just walked away, because I don't really see it grabbing the edge of a bed other than like the Z-axis failing. But this is an Ender 5 or an Ender 5 Plus. It's an Ender 5 variant. Sometimes these fails really surprise me. And the way to fix it is relatively simple here. Get your bed level and just re-level it. If your springs for some reason are not compressed very much and not putting some extra tension on the idler wheels themselves that you're using to tension the bed, make sure to, in this case, raise the amount of distance that your bed comes up closer to the nozzle. That way, you can compress your springs more, and this problem is less likely to happen. However, that doesn't mean you're out of the gate yet. My preference is to get it very, very close, and then to drip some thread locker in there so you can lock it in place. But my real preference is to just remove these springs and do an auto bed leveling system. And there are lots out there. If you guys want to see a comparison of bed leveling systems, let me know. Be happy to take a look. That would be a pretty high detail video. Might be a long one, but yeah. Definitely look at making sure you can better secure your wheels to adjust the bed leveling. You could also add a lock nut on there. That's another great way, to a nylon lock nut. Those are also really, really cheap, and they're always great to have around. And last but certainly not least is one of my fails. If you noticed during that sponsor segue, if you skipped it, you missed it, so go back and watch it, that every single printer behind me was running. Well, today is not the same day. We finished up a massive project for a client. It was over 90 hours of 3D printing that we had less than 9 hours to do. So basically, you crank the speeds to 11, you run every available printer that you have that you trust, only the Prusas, and you send it. And that's exactly what we did. We did over 90 hours of 3D printing between 10:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. when the parts were picked up by an Uber driver to take them to Orlando. It's the nice thing to have when you get emergency rush orders like that. Literally, the order came in earlier that morning. They said they needed it by 8 p.m. that night, which means I needed in an Uber to Orlando by no later than 6 p.m., which meant every printer in the fleet that was either not busy could easily be stopped, or we could easily get pulled back up into production quickly was brought to action. But it was not without failure. We had 4 failures during that time. One of them was from the Fusion 3 F410 up there. It was printing in carbon fiber polycarbonate. Now that I remember, another fail is that I left the spool in the dryer, so it probably needs to be re-dried. Damn. But that one did end up clogging on us, and we were able to get a different print restarted on it because some of the parts that they needed required some high strength, so that's what we did. However, we had 2 different Prusas fail on us, and one of them is a unique failure that I have never seen before, and when I saw it, I just had to laugh. A lot of you know the Prusa spool holders. They basically clip to the frame of the printer itself. Behind me, we have custom pieces that utilize the Prusa spool holders. You can actually see the part right there, and the Prusa spool holder comes off of it where the spools lie. But normally, it's designed to grab onto the top of the frame. Well, we had a couple of Mark III S's running outside of the main farm system here because they're travel printers, so they don't generally go on the farm. They stay in other areas. Well, apparently the spool holder that I put on it was broken, because when the printer went to pull the filament, as it was also moving, it ripped the entire spool holder off the printer. And no, it was actually not a filament knot. It was just bad luck, I guess. There must have been some friction in the system. And the spool, or the holder, happened to hit the reset button as it was falling off the damn printer. I have never dealt with a fail like that in my life. But what we ended up doing is, since it was too late to restart the print that it was doing, the timeline meant that if a print failed after 1 hour of that timeline, there was no way for us to get it restarted. It would not have finished on time. So I did other pieces for the project, clamps and things that held it together. And you guys will actually see this part in the upcoming time-lapse Tuesday. So make sure you get subscribed so you don't miss that one. The story was crazy. It was so much work in less than 8 hours. But yeah, it was a bit of a challenge, to say the least. But that's a failure I've never seen, and ways that you can fix that are by making sure that your spool holders aren't broken and that your spools are rolling freely. It's a freak accident. There's no way to be able to determine it. So, is what it is. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys today. If you're new here, and even if you're not, make sure you are subscribed, leave a like, and comment below what was your favorite fail from this week. That's all I got for you guys today. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video, and a massive thank you goes out to all of our Patreon and YouTube channel member supporters whose names are listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Remember, if you want to get your name in the elite group of Musketeers, you can go ahead over to our Patreon at patreon.com/3dmusketeers and join for as low as $5 to get your name listed right next to us. And it is the first week of the month. It's the best time to support your favorite creators. And oh yeah, if you wait till the end, you get the cool stuff. We have filament stories coming onto the podcast this weekend, so make sure you stay tuned. I'm really, really excited to be talking with Courtney. Right below me is going to be the entire PrintFixFriday series, so if you want to learn more about fails and how to fix them, go check that out. Right next to it will be a perfect video handpicked especially for you. I'll see you all down in those comments and in the next one. Take care.